So Kevin Lee returned to the UFC after a 2-year hiatus, and his return didn't go as planned. It's his worst defeat in his entire career. He lost in a first-round guillotine choke to Rinat Fakhretdinov. Where does Kevin Lee go from here? Let's talk about it before we do. My name's Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. So let's talk about the fight first and work backwards, right? So when Kevin Lee walked out last night, I thought to myself, this guy kind of looks bigger than he has previously fighting at welterweight. His shoulders look broader. He looked fuller, thicker. I thought, you know what? He's taken this move to welterweight seriously, because previously when he's fought at welterweight, he just looked like a lightweight that didn't cut weight, right? So he walks into the octagon and I thought to myself, this might be a new Kevin Lee 73.0, because every time he fights, he tells us it's a new him, right? And then the fight starts. And full disclosure, I had never heard of Fakhretdinov. I'm just going to call him Rinat because I struggle to pronounce his surname and I'm probably doing it wrong anyway. When the fight started, Rinat, from the first second, was very aggressive, right? He was a man that didn't show any apprehension, nerves or fear. He was going after it from the go. Stiff, hard jabs, a low kick that he put everything in, and when those strikes landed, I just sensed this kind of oh shit in Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee started kind of getting on the back foot, circling the octagon, and he kind of, I don't know, I just felt like the confidence just sapped out of the guy, right? And before you knew it, Rinat landed that hard, I don't even know what punch it was. I was going to say right hand, but I can't even remember. But I just know he just knocked Kevin Lee off his feet onto the canvas. And then Rinat secured the guillotine choke. And that's all she wrote. A minute. It took under a minute for that fight to finish. By the way, Herb Dean, who gets a lot of flack on social media, because let's be fair, he has made the odd error. I think he did a good job on this occasion by recognizing the fact that Kevin Lee was out and stopping the fight, because Kevin Lee was in fact unconscious, rendered unconscious. So where does Kevin Lee go from here? Because let's not forget, he left the UFC. Sorry, let me rephrase that. He was released from the UFC in 2021 after losing to Charles Oliveira. Now we know that's nothing to be ashamed of, because the best of the best have lost to Charles Oliveira. And then he lost to Daniel Rodriguez in a very lackluster performance. He tested positive for Adderall, was suspended for 6 months, and then the UFC released him. He went and fought in Eagle FC, beat Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez beat him by decision. And the fight wasn't as clear-cut of a victory you'd expect for someone like Kevin Lee, who's supposed to be in his prime, against Diego Sanchez, who is Diego Sanchez. And he's had all this time off. So that his last fight was in March 2022. And physically, he looked in good shape, and I thought he's actually been applying himself whilst he's been away from the octagon. There's been a lot of changes in Kevin Lee's life. You know, he's changed to the point where he's changed religion. It felt like he was refocused, driven, and he was genuinely trying to make another run. And then I watched his press conference, his fight week press conference. And one thing that he said, I thought to myself, I'm not sure this guy's changed. Because he started talking about his brother, Keith Lee, who is a TikTok sensation. He makes loads of videos that go viral. He's a celebrity. He gets invited to, I follow him on Instagram, and he was invited to the BET Awards and stuff. He's a guy that used to be an MMA fighter, but now his star power and celebrity has superseded that. More people know Keith Lee from TikTok than they do know him as a fighter. Keith Lee happened to be in Kevin Lee's corner yesterday, right? But the reason why I'm talking about Keith Lee is Kevin Lee said in his pre-fight press conference that, oh yeah, you know, I know if I apply myself, like my brother's like a inspiration, if I apply myself, I know I can be a star just like he is. And just when he said that, I thought to myself, are you doing this just to be a celebrity? Are you doing this just to be you know, famous, to be recognized? Or are you doing this to be the best fighter you can possibly be? What is your goal? What are you trying to achieve here? Right? And you know what? I fully appreciate that I'm dissecting a single sentence that he said, and he didn't elaborate on it because nobody asked him to, and he didn't know that I'm sitting here judging him for what he's saying, right? But I just got the sense, like, I'm sick and tired of hearing Kevin Lee tell us that this is a new version. It's the new me. Like, I'm tired of it, like, because I've heard it so many times that just show me at this point. Don't talk about it, be about it, as they say. And from what I saw yesterday, and I tweeted this out, either Kevin Lee has just fought a real phenom in the making in the form of Rinat, the same way he fought, although obviously we were fully aware of who Charles Oliveira is. I think at the time when Charles Oliveira beat Kevin Lee, I don't think a lot of people thought that Charles Oliveira was going to go on to do what he's done since, right? And who knows, Rinat might go on and have a very, very successful career in the welterweight division. He might go on to be one of the best of the best. He's undefeated for a reason, right? And I think they said yesterday he's had 22 fights or something like that. That's a run. So it might be that he just caught the wrong guy. He just caught the wrong guy at the right time, and it made him look worse than he actually is, right? Or it might just be that Kevin Lee just don't have it anymore. It might just be he got too much too soon, back in the era when he fought Tony Ferguson, and people were putting this kind of, like, do you remember the era when everyone was just talking about how Kevin Lee it's just a matter of time until Kevin Lee wins a world championship. He's going to be the champion. Kevin Lee is going to win the belt. Do you remember that kind of era in MMA when it was just, everyone was just talking about how Kevin Lee's going to be a champion one day? And he got given opportunities, not because of his potential, because he did have some good performances as well. But he kind of got so close to the pinnacle at that point in his career. Maybe he's taken such a tumble. It's just such a hard graft to rise back up again, and he just doesn't have the mental or even the technical fortitude to do it. It's one of them things that only time will tell. But I have my suspicions that we've already seen the best days of Kevin Lee. Just because I feel like I don't believe what he says when he talks about how he's improved and how he's a new version of himself, because I don't see the changes in the octagon. I don't see what's new. The fact that this fight happened in the prelims of a fight night is something that I am really struggling to get my head around. Like, I didn't even know Kevin Lee was fighting this week until I think Ariel Helwani tweeted about it, and then I saw a couple of interviews pop up, and then obviously I saw the pre-fight press conference on Media Day. Like, I don't know whether it's a punishment for Kevin Lee, giving him this opponent that nobody's heard of. Like, you'd think, right, the UFC at the moment are churning out so many cards on a regular basis that they'd want to cultivate as many stars or known names as possible. And the fact that Kevin Lee was on the prelims of a card that was on normal ESPN TV, as far as I'm aware, I just didn't understand the logic behind it. And I didn't understand why Kevin Lee took that fight on the prelims. Maybe he isn't in UFC's good graces, and maybe it was, okay, if you want to come back, this is the first fight you have to take in this slot on this date. Are you in? And when your only options are this, or, you know, pretending that you're getting paid by Bitcoin at Eagle FC. Remember Eagle FC? What's happened to that? But yeah, like, maybe he was just, all right, well, look, let me do it. Because actually, one thing, I'm going off on a tangent now, but one thing I remember, when he re-signed with the UFC, there was a few interviews, and he was saying, yeah, PFL were interested, Bellator were interested, but I want to be the best fighter in the best organization. And even at that time, I was thinking to myself, you should have just gone to PFL. Should have just gone to PFL, and you would have had an opportunity to be a bigger fish in a small pond over there. Because I had already lost faith in what he can do in the octagon. But I feel like I'm not the only one now with this opinion of Kevin Lee. I feel like a lot of the MMA community will feel this way about Kevin Lee. And the onus now is for Kevin Lee to actually show us a new version of himself and prove all of us wrong. I have my doubts. But yeah, these are my thoughts about Kevin Lee's return to the UFC. Let me know what you guys think about the points that I've made in this video. Feel free to raise your own points, something that I might have missed in this video, in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this with a friend if you've enjoyed my video. Check you guys next time.